Welcome to A Meaningful Marketplace.
I'm Sarah Masoni from Oregon State University's Food Innovation Center, where I've helped countless dreamers launch their new food products. It's the science of taking a food delight from the kitchen to mass manufacturing and still keeping its great taste. That's what I do. I've been called the woman with the $1 million palate, although I haven't tried to cash that check yet. Listen in weekly for real-life stories.
I'm Sarah Marshall, owner of Marshall's Haute Sauce and author of Preservation Pantry, modern canning from root to top and stem to core. I love inspiring business owners to get started on their journey, encourage folks to be part of their local community, and I'm excited to help business owners tell their stories. Hello and welcome to the Meaningful Marketplace. We are here weekly to discuss the journey of food entrepreneurs. We're glad you've joined us today as we bring you stories of hope and inspiration. This is Sarah Marshall, owner of Marshall's Haute Sauce.
And Sarah Masoni of Oregon State University's Food Innovation Center. Hi, Sarah Marshall.
Hi, Sarah Masoni. I'm very excited about today because we took the show on the road.
We're on the road.
We are in the Food Innovation Center.
Yep, upstairs.
We're upstairs in the Food Innovation Center. This is the first time we've recorded here.
Took over the classroom.
We're in the classroom. It's very cool. We didn't even really know we could do this, but
we didn't think about it.
We just did. We just decided to do it. So I'm pretty excited about it.
It's cool.
It feels good to be with you here.
I have to say the microphone smells like chili. Just saying.
Well, that's because it came straight from my house. So everything, as people know, my sauce kitchen is downstairs.
I love it.
We record the podcast upstairs, so everything smells like hot sauce and barbecue sauce. I did make barbecue sauce today, so that's why
it's beautiful.
It's probably part microphone, part me.
It's giving me a warm feeling in my heart.
Good. I love that. Well, thank you for knowing me and understanding that that's just the way things are. Well, I want to encourage people. This show is going to air probably in February, but we're doing a special project, and we want to encourage people to go downtown in winter months and connect with all of our friends who work in downtown businesses. So we're doing something special called Marshall's Hot Sauce Downtown Days, and people can look at our Instagram to see what that means.
Are you hiding bottles of sauce?
We are.
Artists do that.
We have secret sauce at some of our friends' establishments, and there's a password. If you go there and buy some stuff and experience,
that's a great idea.
Experience their businesses, you can get some free hot sauce. And so all we want you to do is go experience the same cool stuff that we do downtown. So you can check our Instagram to figure out what that is. And then if you go to every single one of those businesses, you can be entered into a gift basket to win some cool stuff from us. And so no pressure. All we want you to do is...
You always have the most creative ideas. Good job,
well,
Sarah
we have a friend, Han, who owns Kim Jong Grillin, and he has a food cart downtown. And we saw him at his restaurant, and he was saying that this is the hardest month for downtown businesses, and he really wanted people to come downtown, and he just didn't know how he was going to do that. And we were like, well, all we can do is tell our friends. So we just decided that's what we were going to do. So,
good job.
Yeah. So everybody check out our Instagram to find out more and go downtown and see some buddies.
Cool.
And I just wanted to say, Sarah, that we started this podcast in 2019. We were interviewing women from Oregon who had businesses. We knew almost every single one of them.
Every single one.
And then we expanded with the Regional Food Business Center to businesses from other states, and we didn't know them. They were other people that we didn't know.
It was so fun.
So fun. Mm-hmm. And today is the first day we're back in Oregon.
Woohoo!
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. We have, we're circling back to Oregon. Any hopes and dreams for our Oregon episodes?
Well, we're going to be visiting with a lot of people from the community.
Yeah.
Focusing on Indigenous and farms and things like that. It's going to be exciting. We have a co-host that's really hooked us up.
I'm super excited, and that is what we're going to tell everybody about next.
Yes.
So we've been partnering with the Regional Food Business Center to bring guests from the 6-state region, and we are back in Oregon. And I want to welcome our co-host, Danita Macy. She is from OSU Extension Service. And Danita, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm happy to. An Indigenous Danita Macy. I currently work for Oregon State University. I'm the SNAP-Ed Outreach Family and Community Health Program Coordinator for the Portland urban metro area. Then I also have a statewide appointment in food preservation for all of the 9 tribes. So I get to do some pretty awesome stuff.
That's so rad. Every time I hear you talk about the things that you do, I learn more and more about the rad stuff that happens here. It's very exciting.
Cool. I'm glad you have fun because I know I have fun.
I'm excited about the shows that you're going to be on because I am super into food preservation. And every time I hear you talk about food preservation, I get excited to start new projects. And I was just reading an article that you wrote about nettles.
Oh yeah, nettles. That's some good medicine right there.
Can you tell people how they find that article?
Just go online, Oregon State University, and just look up nettles. Just looking to find things to do with nettles and how to safely and most importantly, though, anytime, whatever you're picking out in the forest that you're not cultivating, to remember to be respectful and leave some for the plants and animals and, and all the other people that want to come into that space. So just take what you need. And there's some tortoiseshell butterfly makes its home on the nettle. And so when there's not enough, we're also missing out on these little creatures that we need to make this just a complete ecosystem.
That's super important to remember. What is your favorite thing to preserve?
Chokecherry jam.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Chokecherry jam. I love.
What's the secret? Because you have to harvest at a certain time, right?
When we lived in Warm Springs, my husband is from the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and he is Wasco. And right down the street from us was such a beautiful tree. And we'd go out and get chokecherries and bring them home. And, we moved to Portland a little over 10 years ago, and I miss that tree. You take for granted what's around you when it's there and then it's gone, and it's so valuable and it's such a beautiful food. And I am appreciative anytime someone gifts me any chokecherries. So I take that as that's really important because of the amount of work that goes into it. Or when someone brings me nettles, I really appreciate that. And in the paper, the publication that we put out, that really was, a concerted effort from community, people like Jenny Brixey at OSU, Glinda Hyde. We put that together, and anytime we talk about Indigenous foods, it's always, what can be shared, what in a respectful way. And so working with the community, like Future Generations Collaborative, and just getting additional insight.
In case people don't know what nettles or chokecherries are, can you tell our listeners? Because we have to remember that some people are listening from places that aren't here and they may not even know what those things are.
Yeah, absolutely. So stinging nettle, a lot of people see it as a weed because it does sting. Ergo the name, stinging nettle. People see the use for it in tea and foods and cordage. Yeah, absolutely. There's some beautiful nettle cordage here. And you think about all the amazing things that Indigenous people have made and are still making and are still sharing. And when you put your hands in nettle, that welt, right, it's that reminder. And I think that is really what our plants are, is they give us reminders of so many things. And so when you get that harsh sting, that's that immediate, oh, I better be aware of what's around me. And then different times of years, the nettle has this beautiful earthy flavor to it, is the only way that I can describe it. And it's just beautiful. And chokecherries, they are tart. You think about cranberries, they are more tart than cranberries. And there's a little tiny seed in there that you probably should take out, although traditionally it was just ground into the foods. And so at OSU, we say that we take the seed out. I don't always take the seed out, though.
I won't tell anyone.
I won't. Okay, no one here tell nobody, right?
It's a secret.
All right, good.
Safe with us.
All right, okay, good. I was worried.
Well, Danita, I'm excited you're going to be with us for some of these episodes. So thanks for co-hosting the shows with us. We're super stoked.
Thanks for having me.
And we would like to encourage you to connect with your state by signing up for the Regional Food Business Center newsletter. It's a breeze to sign up. You can go to Northwest Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center.com, hit connect with us, and choose the button to receive newsletters. And we want to thank our sponsor for supporting the Meaningful Marketplace. Thank you for helping us spread the word about small business owners and entrepreneurs. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. The Northwest and Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center is the proud sponsor of the Meaningful Marketplace podcast, giving a voice to food from across the 6-state region of Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. The Food Business Center supports Northwest and Rocky Mountain food industry makers as part of the USDA's National Network of Food Business Centers, supporting a more resilient, diverse, and competitive food system as a go-to source for small and mid-tier food and farm businesses with a focus on underserved communities, providing education in the form of technical knowledge, business programs, and industry news. We sponsor trade shows, meetups, and conferences to connect growers, producers, retailers, distributors, and processors, all to stimulate business and raise the standards of our storied food industry. Join us as we travel through the 6-state region, learning more about food makers, food hubs, and food systems. Visit the website at Northwest Rocky Mountain Regional Food Businesses.com to get connected. And Danita, would you like to bring on our guest today?
Absolutely. This is my good friend, Ginny. And Ginny, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Okay.
'Cause everything you do is pretty wicked awesome.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Hola, greetings. My name is Jennifer Rosemarie Serna, and I am one of the matriarchs at Wapato Island Farm, where I've been tending land for 20 years now, out on Wapato Island or Savi Island.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess it was last year now in 2024, we just started our Wapato table, which is an unschool, inviting people to remember the medicine path, starting with seeds and soil and land and growing different medicines, learning to be good friends with the medicines, making medicines and sharing it with the community in a good way.
Well, we're so glad that you're here today. We always like to connect people to you. What's the best way for them to find you, either online or in person?
Yeah, we do have a website, and that is wapatoislandfarm.com. And we also have an Instagram, which, I'm not super great at updating all the time, but I try, and that's also at Wapato Island Farm.
Perfect. We'll make sure to tag that to you. And is your farm a place that people can come visit?
Yeah, we actually have weekly visitors in the way of volunteers, and folks don't have to volunteer if they don't want to, and they can walk and listen to the birds and meet plants. But that is almost every Tuesday from around 10:30 to 2:30 throughout the whole year, and so folks can really connect with different cycles and what we're doing, and their support is very, very much appreciated.
And let's tell people about where Wapato Farm or Wapato Island is located.
Thank you for that. Actually, that is very important because to know where you are is a way of showing up for where you live and making where you live a better place. So I get to live with all these beings on a river island. It's maybe one of the largest river islands in the U.S. That's what I hear. It's outside of the technical Portland city limits, but it's only about a 20-minute drive actually to downtown, 25 minutes depending on traffic and how fast I drive. It's very special because it's part of a migratory bird pathway for lots of different birds. And it's changing actually with the climate shifts. Yeah, we're close to a large city, but very rural. There's no gas stations or grocery stores on the island. It's mostly farmland.
That's beautiful. Can you tell us the history and mission of Wapato Island Farm?
Oh, history and mission of Wapato Island Farm. One of my elders, he uses the phrase sacred hospitality. And that phrase really rings true in my heart and in my body. So I've had the honor of being on the land for 20 years now. So much has shifted during that time. But the history being that I had a lot of growing up to do. I had just had my third child, and my mama and papa were making beans in the kitchen, and I was about to, push the baby out, and in the last minute, my papa came in the room, and he saw my third son, be brought to the side. And maybe one tear rolled down his cheek, I never seen my papa cry. And shortly after that, he says, "Oh, we got to move. We got to be close, to the grandbabies." And so 3 days later, he's looking and he's like, "Have you heard of this place called Savi Island?" And I was like, "Yeah, but there's no way, Dad, that we could afford anything out there." And so he does some investigating, and he's looking, and then he finds this beautiful piece of land that had been on the market a long time, and gives them this very, lowball offer, and they accept, for no good reason, other than that there were ones that were weaving ahead for me. And I feel like the land called me and many, to that specific place. And they've been so patient with me. I've been part of this imperialistic mindset for so long that I get to dominate us two-legged humans, that we get to come in and we get to make all the decisions and not consider, So they had their work cut out with me, and so slowly, I start listening, a little better, a little deeper, and I start remembering more and more, and then I have more elders, I have more folks, come in and remind me. One of the big things was an elder says, "Oh, you have, the land is about 33 acres. It's a lot." He said, "Oh, you have all this land for all of, you all get to decide, what to do. Where's the part that you have set aside for the wild?" And I was like, what do you mean? "Well, you need to have a place that's just for the wild, that humans don't get to go." I said, "Oh, okay. I didn't think of that." So maybe it's been like 9 years now. We set aside about 3.5 acres, and it's in the back. It's tucked away, and it's a wetland. And so we've had like 2 interruptions, but for the most part, in about 9 years, no humans get to go to that space. And it has changed the land immensely. So much more wildlife. The soil has changed. The snakes, the birds, it's the sounds. I had no idea that honoring in that way could make something shift so big, so quickly. So that's a little bit of history about the land and this beautiful place that I get to spend my time and remember and mess up, but remember.
And do you live there on the farm too, or do you just farm there?
Yeah, so I live there, raised my kids there. I have 4 babies. They're big babies now. So much of my time is spent there, and there's lots of other folks that live there too. There's community, and then 3 of my 4 kiddos still live on the property. So yeah, we have the beauty of nothing like intact village life, but learning to live in space with community and the beauty that brings.
Very cool. I have gotten to spend some time out there because I did the Sauvie Island Farmers Market with you when they had it. They don't have it anymore, but they used to have it out there. It was one of my favorite events because I would bring my daughter. How events work out on the island is that they can't and maybe you know more about this, I'm not sure, but they can't have an event in the same place repetitively. So they couldn't have the farmers market there at one farm each and every time. So they moved it to a different farm each time the market was held. But the great thing about that for me and my family was that we got to explore a different farm every time. So every month, the farmers market would be at a different farm, and I would bring my daughter, and she would get very muddy and very dirty and roll around with all the different, there was the farms with pigs, and there was farms with cows, and there was farms with dogs, and you could do all the different, you pick stuff. And it was one of my favorite times because we could explore all these farms and get to know the people that, had them, and get to know all the different animals. And then they just stopped doing it. And it was so sad because it was my favorite. It was such a fun place to explore. And I would see you there with your plants and the things that you were selling. It was so fun. Do you think they'll ever bring it back?
That's a good question. I know it was a lot of work for the folks that were organizing, but we can ask.
Yeah, it was so fun. I hope they bring it back. I do. Farmers markets are hard. They're hard to organize. Yeah. They're hard to get people to show up. They're always weather dependent. That was, I mean, even though I loved that market, there were some market days where I would be like, cold. Yeah. I think all of our tents blew away at one market. There was one very October stormy market. Our cars were all stuck in the mud. Like, it's not always a glamorous life, but I do enjoy it, and I did enjoy that market a lot.
That's where some of the best stories come from, right? Remember that one time when all of our stuff blew away?
It kind of bonds us. I mean, you're forever. I mean, you're creating memories, right. But they're memories for later. In the moment, a lot of times tears are shed.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
Danita, do you have a question for Jennifer?
I do.
Hi, Danita.
Hello. Well, I'm always amazed by so many of the things that you do. And when you go out to Wapato farms, there's always like different people, and they're all doing something different. And I think one of the things that I love and appreciate is that you are always helping the community, always. So, some way in community, you're always helping. And one of your outbuildings, when you walk in there, this girl always has something drying. She's got something drying or whatever. And then you also have this amazing little apothecary shop in there. And so there's a lot of seed saving and herbs making and tinctures and salves and vinegars. And there is a wealth of Jedi knowledge in there. I feel it. The force is strong in you. So I'm always interested in how you figure out like what to do next, or am I going to plant this, or is it just what pops up? Because I also know you've done some traditional burning and stuff in different areas, and then things come out that you never knew were there.
Yeah.
And that is so cool. And so I'm always wondering, like, where does that come from?
Wow, thank you for all of that and your description of our botanica, our apothecary, because I want to just say that is like the heartbeat of the farm. That space is so alive, and when people walk in, they feel it. They're like the smells and the visual, but it's more than that. They feel like all of these beings in their process as well. Some of them are being initiated. Some of them are ready to go out to community. Some of them are, there's, like you said, there's seeds in there, and they're waiting, with so much magic. Seeds are so magical. They're a universe in one little seed. Everyone, it's so amazing. And so people walk in there, and they're like, there's this sense of wonder, and awe, because you can like smell it, you can taste it.
It's an experience. Like I can't even explain it. It's like a legit experience. It's safe. It feels safe.
Oh, yeah. And, I think, like, if I could reach back into, like, little Jenny, I never knew the word, like, fairy, I was like, my mom's very Mexican, and so, like, bruja, little witch, brujita. Like, I remember dreaming of this space. And I don't know if I was dreaming past, of, like, my ancestors or future or both, but it's like, I get to tend with many people, and the Botanica is the way it is because of so many. Like I couldn't harvest that much on my own because we harvest everything by hand. And we don't just go out and clip and cut and, take. We do our best to ask permission. Just because it's in our garden doesn't mean that we have a right to just take everything. And we don't ever take the grandmother, the tallest one. If there's bees or other pollinators or other ones, around or on, we leave them alone. If a stand doesn't look healthy or happy, we leave them alone. Because, it's medicine that we are trying to share and offer. And if we're not in good relationship and moving slow and asking consent, then we're offering something different maybe than medicine. And it shouldn't just be with medicine. It should also be with food. Every time, because we do grow quite a bit of food as well, but every time you go out and you harvest, corn, it's a funeral too. You've taken the children. You've taken her children, the grandmother's children, to nourish and to feed yourself and your family, your children, your community. And so when we really hold that mindset, and everybody is welcome to believe however they want, but it allows such a deep appreciation that medicine can't be overlooked. Because if you really think, oh, wow, this one gave his life so I can live and I can be nourished, then I want to live my life in a way that's honoring and respectful to these ones, and then it completes the circle. We're not in these bodies for very long, so do my best. When I mess up, it's okay. I'm not here to be perfect. Failing is beautiful. I fail all the time. I'm greedy. I'm a brat, Every time, I tell people this all the time, every time I go into these beautiful gardens to harvest, I'm looking at some calendula and some meadowsweet. Right now, what do I want to do? I want to take more than what I need every time. So I have to say, oh, Jenny, that's enough. Listen, how many did they say you could have? And slow down enough so that you're not just like, my pace. Slow it down and listen. Only take what you need. Be thoughtful and mindful. But I don't always either. I wish that I did, but I don't. So.
I know what you mean, because when I was there, do you remember what happened?
What happened?
You said, you can have whatever you want from the garden. And I was like, I only want wormwood.
Usually I say, you can have whatever you want if they say yes.
That's all that I wanted.
Just some wormwood.
Yeah, it's hanging in my office.
Oh, that's so cool.
There's some mugwort here. It's, kind of related to the wormwood if you need to take some of that home
Maybe
this time. Yeah.
Nice. One other thing I was thinking that you have that I know we just started working with, because I was thinking you were talking about, because it's also like, it's a working farm, right? You got there's so much food.
There's a lot of food, a lot of medicine.
Yeah. And you also do the CSAs out of there. Right?
Yeah. Or we do a medicinal CSA, but this year we might start. Back in the day, I used to do like a combination of kind of like half food, half medicine. And so I think we might go back to that this summer, doing something like that as well. That's like very specific community, maybe for like single moms. And then we'll do a lot of skill sharing around that. So like, here's some food. Now what do you do with it? How do you cook with it? And let us feed you while you're here. And, let them meet the land, let them meet the squash or, the tomatoes. Let them see what they look like. Maybe they'll harvest them or some of them,
Absolutely. I know. I love it when I see like little kids out there.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, nothing's
Don't
cuter.
they have a garden?
They have their own little garden. You and
Monique Lopez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that together. It's so cool. But it's like they just know. Like little kids, I mean, like we've seen them in the garden. They're out there and they just know. I think about like my own children did not love gardening, but man, my grandbabies, they were like, yeah, Grammy,
like,
teach
yeah.
us, Grammy. This is the way. And it was wonderful. So when we go out to your place, like I know you've had unschooling out there and you have the volunteer folks that come out there, but you have a lot of other things that are going on out there.
I mean, for real, we
like,
do
legit,
have a lot.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's never been a time that I have like just shown up out there and it's just like, oh, we're doing this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay. It might be that someone's there for a class to learn how to make vinegars, or they're there because they're preserving tomatoes. I went out there and you guys were pulling in the tomatoes. She has this really cool outdoor kitchen area, and it's amazing. And you just see all these people gather around it, and it's fun. Like you make food fun, and then it's infectious. And you just I want to can that too. Let's go do that.
Well, who wants to can by themselves? Like, I don't know.
Nobody want to can by themselves. That's
so much more fun in community. And I learned that from you too.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Full snaps.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Jenny, will you show us some of the things that you brought with you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Oregon State University's College of Agricultural Sciences and the Food Innovation Center are proud sponsors of Meaningful Marketplace. With a mission to serve all Oregonians, we are committed to giving voice to those whose food and agricultural stories are not always heard. By providing access and opportunity for a more diverse and just food system, because food brings people together.
All right, Jenny, I see you have some treasures there in front of you. Why don't you take us on a tour?
Take you on a tour. Okay. Well, I was asking, I was like, who wants to be seen and heard and maybe tasted? I don't know. But I actually wanted to start with some spring water, which I collected. We don't have a spring on the farm, a drinking spring. So there's a place in Scappoose that I go to collect spring water. And so I brought some of that, and something that is so beautiful and so inexpensive and so healing. And water is just that, it holds. Some people call it a carrier. I don't really like that word, but it's kind of like a base for so many things. So you want to have a cold infusion or some hot tea. And so I brought the spring water that, potentially we could heat up and add some herbs to it. And some of the herbs here are nettle and calendula. Add a little bit of meadowsweet and some thyme, rose, goldenrod, and mugwort. And then I brought some infused honey. And I do my best to be the type of person that's like, if I'm going to do something, then I really want to do it well, And I don't always do that, but that's my hope. But this honey is one of those things, and it's wild roses, not just from the farm, but from the island. And wild roses are so pungent, and they're so beautiful, and they're so wild, There's a short time to harvest. So usually I get my kids and, we'll go out and, find a space and then move because you don't want to over harvest either, right? So this is some honey that has lots of different wild roses in it. And it's been sitting in the honey, which is, a great preserver for some time now. And it's a great, something to add to tea, to porridge, to wounds. And the salt. I've been in salt world for the last 2 weeks, and I love, love, love smoking salt. The process is something like this. I start with some beautiful salt. I make like a really strong tier decoction, essentially, with the different plants that have given the yes for me to work with. I'm particularly excited about these plants here because they're all First Nation food, native plants to this area. And so I've been living out on Wapato Island Farm for 20 years now, and this is the first year that I've had permission from the Wapato to harvest them. And so they're in this batch, and they gave me 13 Wapato, and some of them are little, but some of them are so big and so beautiful. And to finally have a yes from them, to feel their trust in me, brings a little tear. So these ones, they're in there. There's also cattail and our native garlic, and I'm smoking with cottonwood and oak. So I have a beautiful wood fire oven, and the night before I start with this really strong tea, and I let it simmer for about a full day, and then the next day the decoction goes onto the salt and it sits for a full day, and then it goes into the wood fire oven, and then it's slow moving. So it's light fires, let them go out, light a fire, let them go out. And I'm on the land, so I'm just like bebopping around, doing my thing, and then I just go light another fire, and it goes out. And so the process, it has to be very slow, because the idea is that you keep the medicine intact. So if you do it too fast, then you lose the volatile oils, a lot of the medicine. It will go out and go away. But if you go real slow, then it stays. And then, at the end, you end up with something that is a medicinally strength medicine. Oh, there's also chanterelle mushrooms in here. And I harvest those in a good way, from a place that I've been visiting for years. We all know that mushrooms are such good medicine, and they're from the wild. And so it's always so important to have something from the wild in your food. And it keeps us wild too, helps us to not just become robots. And so for me, it's such an honor and important piece of getting this medicine, this food, into people's homes, so that when they have their loved ones, or they have someone over and they sprinkle a little bit of the salt onto the food, that the people are receiving that medicine, and they're receiving the wild, and they're receiving the Wapato, whether they know it or not, it's okay. But it's coming into their bodies, and I believe that, this changes us. I sing to the salt, and I make prayers to the salt, and I feel that goes out, and maybe helps us to be, a little bit more human.
That's lovely. Very lovely.
Thank
you.
I use the salt on so many different things. I love to cook. And my husband and I were always cooking, and our friends are always making these yummy dishes, and then I'm like, I feel like I'm throw out the salt. Like that. It's just like, oh, bam, bam, here's a little bit of salt for you.
You're so welcome. Yeah.
But it's like you add a little bit to water. And one of the things I know, one of the way that you introduced me to your salt was you had added a little bit of the salt, kind of like electrolytes, right? And in some syrup and water. It was incredible. I can't quite describe the flavor, because each of her salts are a little bit different, right? There's so many layers. It's so complex. And it doesn't have that, not fake smoke taste, like that stuff that comes in the brown bottle. I think it's called fake smoke.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's so beautiful and soft. And my son is picky about everything, and he picks up on everything. And he's like, "What'd you put in my water?"
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "I like it." Okay. Good. I thought I was going to be able to slide it past you, but it didn't happen. I know it's weird. It's not salty because there's so many other flavor notes that come through it, and it enhances. Like if you just put a little bit on salt, or like I've added it to unsalted butter with some different like herbs and things, right? Because sometimes I think I'm fancy and, make fancy butter and stuff like that. And there's just so many different things that I like to do with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you noticed that because there's so much medicine in there that I'm grateful that you notice the layers.
I do. It's straight up bougie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's like I always think like I imagine Nephi Craig. He is this amazing indigenous chef in Arizona. I see him doing those band things with salt.
We'll have to send him
On his
some.
chocolate.
Yeah.
On the chocolate.
Oh,
yeah.
or on his
Yeah.
chocolate. Yeah. But I appreciate a lot of the things that you make and create, and I just appreciate that you allow so many people out there.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we skill share. And I don't really like the word teach because then that creates a hierarchy, But that you have a skill that I don't have, and then we can share it, and then we can learn from each other.
That's community, sister.
That's what's up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that Skillshare.
Well, and I think too, for anyone to have the things that you're making in their home, it's so special. Like all of the love that you're putting into everything is a gift for someone, So just the amount of time and thought and energy that you put into each thing that you make it's so full of love. You can't get any more than that. Like there's nothing more to give than what you're doing. It's so wonderful. I super dig it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What else do you have there, Jennifer?
Oh, well, I'm working on a little cedar medicine basket, actually. And this one wanted to join because, I think about what our vessels used to be like, and some of them were cedar that held water. And, we didn't traditionally just drink from glass or metal, it was the earth, through clay or gourds or cedar. So I was just dreaming about this little medicine bag, and if I had weaved it slightly different, then it could be like a little, from my tea, I could drink from it.
And it's formed over a piece of wood. Is that how you've done that?
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
Mick Rose actually showed me this particular process here. So grateful to them.
She's so
They're so
talented.
Yeah, yeah.
They're so talented.
And you have something that is over by Danita that was... Can you describe what that is to her? I know that our listeners, I wish you could see everything, and we'll try to post some pictures and tags so you can see the things we're talking about. But it looks like it's a beautiful woven...
Yeah, it's very, very simple, and it is so beautiful because plants are so beautiful, but it's just some simple cordage that my daughter and I made, and then it's got a little bit of alpaca, I'm seeing, because we're working on spinning some alpaca right now. I think that this one... I think that the reminder for me is like, something like nettle is that it's profound because that one is food. It's medicine. It's a textile. You can dye materials with it. Wears so many hats. And I think that we just kind of categorize plants. We're busy, we forget to slow down and we're like, oh yeah, plants or trees or minerals, we just categorize them together, but they're so dynamic and so diverse. I think when you start to take on the idea of them as beings, then you might become friends with them. And you might start to learn their language, because the language of nettle is different than the language of calendula. And you might start to hear something different from them than you're reading in Google about the benefits or the side effects of a particular plant. And so, there's something very beautiful about traditional information being passed, and we're in a way now where our elders now are Google, So we go to that for wisdom or for information, and a lot of that's just being recycled and recycled. So part of what the unschool is like unschooling, deschooling, and helping us to start to move away from a lot of what we've been taught, which is to just mine things. Like, what's nettle good for? How can it serve me? Instead of like the wonder of approaching with, like, who are you, nettle? For instance, like what Danita was talking about, the boundaries of like, oh, wow, so you stung me and I have a welt, and now what? Is that medicine for me too? In so many ways. Medicine for my joints, medicine for my heart, of like, yeah, maybe I need to approach you differently. You taught me something and you're giving me medicine. So I just think that it's a dynamic way of living, is to be in awe and in honor of beings. Some which are so quiet, and so tender and shy even. And then to have them open up to you and share with you is just a very different way than going and typing on your computer or your phone and say, well, how is nettle good for me? And no shade, to that either, because everybody's on their own journey. They're in their own process, and their own way. But it's a really beautiful, nurturing opportunity for us to start to move away from just how can I serve me? How can I even just serve my family? It's like, oh, well, really the beauty of a matriarchy is that we see outside of that and we see, oh, well, that one needs support. This one needs support. You might not be part of my family, but I care. And so these things, it's like I get the honor of living on land and on a farm and tending. But this is one aspect of a very, like systemic problem that we are faced with here in this culture and during this time, is how do we live well? How do we see each other? How do we move in a way that's respectful and not just taking, even with medicine,
One of the things that I appreciate so much about like what I've learned, over the years, I think about, we talk a lot about storytelling, the importance of storytelling. And I think about all the things like that I've learned from my grandma, right? My grandma taught me how to can and all that kind of stuff. And then it's those things that you then carry on for your own kiddos and grandkids. And then you learn these things. And then throughout community, you learn more things. And I knew about this, but I didn't know that. I didn't know nettle did that. I thought this, and that, thought I knew. I didn't know nothing.
I didn't
right?
know nothing.
You don't know. You think, but you don't. You so don't know. And I appreciate that. And I'm always learning. That's why I think a lot of times some of these titles that we get just make no sense, because are you a master? I'm sorry. I don't think so. I know I'm not.
Yeah, please don't ever call me that.
I am.
Yeah.
No,
Thanks.
Me either. I think we're always going to be learning. Always.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things that helps to also keep you humble, and we're never going to learn if we can't have a little bit of humility to recognize that we certainly don't know everything.
Yeah, thank goodness.
So many things we don't understand.
Well, ladies, this is always the part that I do not like, which is that we have to end. So we love to send people to you. So are there ways that people can support you and your farm?
Support with prayers and songs, and then there's support with bringing offerings to the land, to feeding the land. And there's ways to support with actually, if you're an able body that feels like they want to help move compost or bark chips, we really, really appreciate that. Or you want to sing to us while we're doing that. You want to help harvest seeds or take them off of something and you need to sit down. Those are all ways. And then, like I was saying, we became a nonprofit. We would so appreciate any kind of generosity, in the form of weird word money. If you want to let people know about our unschool, take about 15 to 20 people per year for that. Yeah, or if you want to, purchase some of our medicines and share them with the community, those are other ways to support.
Perfect. Well, thank you, both of you, Danita and Jenny, for joining us today. It was great to have you on the show and to learn more about both of you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks to our listeners for plugging into the show. And you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Follow us on Instagram at Meaningful Marketplace Podcast. If you have questions for Sarah and I, you can text us at 503-395-8858. And we couldn't do this without our team at Joy of Creation Production House. To Dave, our production coordinator, to Dirk, our sound engineer, and Haley, our audio engineer. Until next week, thanks for joining. Goodbye.
Bye for now.